Alrighty, hello ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the show, Serving Nerve, where we talk about whatever we want, and today we're going to be going through more fat acceptance cringe compilations. I even have a shirt for the cringe. We should thank Mommy Nerve for giving us this lovely shirt. Yes, even my own mother is now willing to support my endeavors through becoming, whatever this is. Anyways, let's just get into the video. I have no idea what to expect. I just have a little compilation here, and we're gonna go through it and just say screw it. So, yeah, let's just do it. So, starting this off, this is obviously like, some skinny girl on camera, but it says, down right here, the little comment, don't send hate to this person, I just want to speak on the issue. So this is gonna be somebody reacting to this TikTok. I just have to point this out. Some people that are on these compilations, like, they just want to give their perspective and disagree and, give their own opinion. And everybody's opinion is valid because nobody's opinion is actually valid because all opinions are subjective and we just like to argue with each other. But what I'm trying to make is, like, I have no issue with people who want to, like, talk their talk. Let's just get into it. I just want to point this out. This is obviously going to be a stitch.
Skinny girls had their turn, and so did plus-size girls.
Herein lies the fundamental miscommunication about the body positive movement for both mid-sized and thin women. The fundamental misunderstanding being that thin people and mid-sized people think that the body positivity movement is about centering desirability and attractiveness. Like, everybody wants to feel attractive and feel beautiful and have validation and have attention. That's just a normal human thing that everybody wants, of course. But the point of the body positivity movement is to address real material discriminations that fat people face in society.
Okay, so basically the body positivity movement is not body positive because it only is supposed to liberate those who face a level of oppression in discriminated and marginalized bodies, particularly those that are overweight or obese. So if you're mid-size, aka a normal weight is to imply that you are at an abnormal body weight if you are underweight or overweight, but a normal weight, an average weight, a, BMI of like 25 to 20 or whatever. Sorry, I said it backwards, but you get what I'm saying. Like, this is kind of like a belittlement to the entire idea of the body positivity kind of community. And it's kind of ironic because a lot of people in the body positivity communities, like, they actually want to accept all bodies on the basis of them just being bodies and that you're beautiful at every size and whatever. And a lot of these girls, because it's mostly women in the body positivity community, a lot of them come from pretty restrictive and severe, like, disordered eating patterns. And that also is a reason why people break into body positivity, whether they're underweight or overweight. A lot of the time, it's like not being like obsessed with like diet culture and not like belittling yourself because you're not a size 0 or whatever. It's kind of belittling, and I'm sorry to say this, but it is kind of belittling when somebody is like, well, this is only a movement for people who are, obese or overweight. If you're a normal weight, you can't face this body positivity community in the same way. And, I get the idea, but I think that grandstanding and, like, saying, like, what this movement's really all about kind of belittles the point and kind of, like, also makes people not want to be a part of your movement because it doesn't come off as accepting to all bodies. The other thing I have to point out is the idea of all of these bodies being, like, marginalized bodies and, discriminated against bodies if they are overweight, but they can't experience that at other weights. I feel like it's just silly. You get to choose whether you're overweight or not through your consumption. So I feel like it's not really a well-created argument. I get the idea because we can make arguments for systemic oppression, but I just don't feel like it's adequate when it comes to, like, the fat acceptance movement more than anything else.
Like discrimination in employment and healthcare and media and their day-to-day interactions with, like, other people. It isn't about, like, taking turns to see who can be, like, the ideal of desirability and attractiveness in society. It's about addressing systemic oppression and prejudice within society toward fat bodies.
One thing I also want to point out is the girl in the last video, it looked like she was just going like, everybody throughout history, like, I'm just, assuming, but I think the other girl in the last video was going like, yeah, everybody has like a standard of beauty depending on like which era they're in. Like, some people during certain points in history were considered more attractive if they were fatter. Other girls when they're skinnier, just depends on like when in history you were in. And, everybody gets their turn because it's just based on the times. But when this person brings up all this stuff through systemic oppression, medical misconduct, being, inadequately picked for your job, that can happen to a significant sum of individuals, whether they are overweight or not. So I feel like, again, it's just like your subjective experience, and then you like belittle other people basically on the basis of it not being your experience, and you don't want the experience, the oppression, or the reason your movement exists to be taken away from you. So you take issue with other people who aren't in the same bodies as you. And ironically, it comes off as slightly more discriminatory than it needs to be. And I get the idea. It's not to like make a fake movement out of a movement that already exists and take away the importance of like stopping oppression and whatnot. But I feel like you could do a better job with this because body positivity has been around for a really long time. And one of the massive components to the body positivity community has been the like ED recovery community, trying to be super body positive so that you can recover from your disordered patterns. And that's actually like, I think, a lot of the reason why people end up in the body positivity community. It's actually from people who are trying to recover from like their disordered eating behaviors. So that's my opinion. But I just think it's silly. Like there's just going to be a constant disagreement between these parties, and whether it should be only fat people and they're the only ones who are discriminated against. I think you should just do what you want and just live your life. But that's just my opinion.
Hi ladies, how you doing?
Logging onto TikTok as a fat person.
Oh yeah, take a number, honey.
I feel like being fat on TikTok is not that deep. And the only reason you're facing judgment is because you are in a like body positivity or fat acceptance like TikTok account, and you're making TikToks all about how you're oppressed as a fat person. And I've seen this person before. I've seen some of their videos. I've reacted to some of their videos. And some of them really aren't that bad. Like I get the idea of what they're trying to go with. But to act like such a victim is just silly, and that's one thing that I see in a lot of these videos from them. But that's just my opinion. Again, if you don't like it, then you can just not go onto TikTok. Like, there's no shame in not wanting to involve yourself in a more toxic community of individuals. But again, do your thing, and like, just don't listen to what people have to say about you if you don't like being hated on. You know, like, just live your life, man.
I'm answering questions off of my story right now, and one of them was, when did you realize it's okay to be fat? So actually in 2018, I was on sort of like a weight loss kick trying to do that. And then as I got into 2019, the beginning of 2019, my body started changing. You know, I started gaining a little bit of weight, and I was like really struggling with internalized fat phobia because my entire family has taught me from birth, just picked apart my body, said fat is horrible. But my body...
You know, I have to interrupt. I can actually sympathize with this individual because I also grew up in a household where it was like two really skinny sisters, beautiful girls. I was not the skinny one in that mix, dealt with parents that were more body focused, and like it does build a more like negative perception of yourself if you can't just fit that mold. And at the same time, when I was in high school, like I went on so many weight loss kicks. I actually went through a lot of my life trying to like do specific weight loss regimens, get shredded, and I was always typically like, depending on the circumstance, pretty successful with the endeavor. And there were times where I did horrible things that were terrible for my health, and there were times where I also did things that were super healthy for me. And over a course of time, I just started realizing how much of a misery it was and that I'd rather just be fat. And, you know, then I just started endeavoring more to be healthy than anything else. And, you know, nowadays I'm not super healthy, so I could do better. But the point I'm trying to make here is, you know, I have my sympathies because when you go onto these like weight loss kicks and then you face the rebound of weight gain and you know, look down on yourself and you treat yourself like crap, you start really getting fed up with it after like the 10th to 20th time. Hell, even the first or second time, you're like, God, why am I doing this? And I have my sympathies. I just think that some of the things that they say, like the internalized fat phobia and stuff like that, it's like a bad self-esteem perception that you can have of yourself. But do we have to actually say fat phobia? Like, are you actually afraid of being fat? When they say, oh, when did you realize it was okay to be fat? Like, personally, I don't think it's okay to be morbidly obese or obese because that doesn't show any level of health. And you want to be healthy more than anything else. Your looks really don't matter that much at the end of the day. You're going to start looking pretty ugly pretty early in life compared to, you know, your body, which will decay a little bit slower if you actually treat it well. And what's more important, looking like crap and being healthy, or, you know, not caring or whatever, loving your body or thinking you look great or whatever the case is, but having terrible health. I know I'm being a little weird, but the point I'm trying to make is I don't think it's okay to be morbidly obese or obese because it's not a healthy body to live in. At the same time, I really hope this person does have a better level of self-esteem, and the one thing I can hope with the body positivity community is that you actually do find some level of happiness. I just wish that people were healthier in this community because they usually have terrible eating habits, terrible perceptions of reality, and they all get this weird victimhood complex that is not healthy for your mind. I really wish it was less of a victimhood mentality when it came to this community and more of like a, I'm healthy, I'm doing healthy things, but I'm self-empowered and I don't really care what people think of me kind of vibe. Because I don't really see it very often. I feel like a lot of these people are actually like super low on the basis of self-esteem, and they feel like they want the world to bend to them and they have to be accommodated for because they're miserable in their own lives, and they just picked this community because it's like the easiest to pick. Like, you don't really need to be very oppressed to be in this community and act like you're oppressed. Like, you don't really need to deal with that much. You just have to be overweight. And that's not really that hard to be. Like, a lot of these people that are in these communities come from the Western world. They are not, like, super screwed over financially. They have the ability to go onto the internet, go onto TikTok, make these accounts. Like, they don't really have as much oppression as I would perceive with a different level of, like, marginalization or discrimination. And I don't know, man. I'm not trying to, like, dick measure on the basis of oppression, but I'm just saying, like, I feel like life's just not that bad, but this is one of those communities you can kind of like clam on to, just so that you feel like you've got a sense of self, or maybe a reason for your existence because you feel like maybe things are just inadequate for you. I don't know though, that's just me being insane, so let's move on.
Body was changing, so I needed to dress it. I've only thought about the origins of how I unlearned it or the inciting moments a few times, but it really was just fat fashion and fat influencers who post fashion outfits or daily life content. I started watching Emma Thompson Hill in 2019 to kind of figure out clothing hauls and like where I could get clothes that fit my body now that I wasn't straight size. And I had never seen a fat person that was happy. Never. I didn't think that was a thing. Because at that point my social media was just full of before and after weight loss pages and things like that. So like, I was just really in this environment at home and online that was really fat-phobic. I watched more of her videos, I followed her, and I followed other fat creators, and I had a moment to myself. I'm like, they look good when they're fat. They're not supposed to look good when they're fat, but they do. I realized it was okay to be fat when I saw other people okay with being fat. And not just being okay with it, but actively trying not to change it and living their life to the fullest. They had belly lines and big stomachs and big arms, and they didn't care. From there, I unfollowed all of the weight loss pages, and I just followed a whole bunch of fat creators, which then led me into following people into fat liberation, which then got me interested in fat liberation and fat positivity, true body positivity. And then I started following people that posted infographics, disproving all of these things I had thought that were fact, and I was presented with new information that I just hadn't had before because the world is fat-phobic and doesn't want you to realize that you can be fat and be fine.
Here's my thought on this. Like, I like how this person's kind of going, like, you can look good, or, like, you don't have to have, like, the perfect body or whatever. Like, I can agree with that vibe. But the one thing I really don't like is, like, there's a point where, like, you're not being healthy if you are severely overweight. And I know that we can argue it until the cows come home. And I know I talk about cows a lot, all right? What can I say? They've got really cute, sparkly eyes. But I'm just trying to point out, like, I can appreciate some of what this person says. And one thing I actually do encourage most people to do, because I find that it's better for your mental health, is not be super obsessive with, like, following a bunch of weight loss accounts. I think that they build, a lot of the time, like, kind of toxic mindsets. I feel like they're really not good. Like, when I was younger and always online and looking at, like, weight loss stuff, there were a few things that always made me miserable. TWED, that's terrible stuff. Like ED recovery accounts sometimes were like always popping up on the feed too. Those made me miserable. But the number one thing that made me miserable as well was like hyper focusing on like restrictive, weird weight loss. A lot of weight loss trends, a lot of body checking trends, stuff like that. And when I found more things that were like fitness and health oriented, and I was just more focused on my health, I felt like I did a lot better mentally, because it seemed like it was more about like building my health up, building my strength up, building my fitness up, and becoming the best version of myself that I could possibly be, more so than just losing weight and taking things away from myself. only so that I could appease my own delusional mindset. So the reality is I can sympathize with this person. Like, I do have a level of sympathy for this. I just feel like they went down a weird rabbit hole, and then they started getting into, like, fat liberation and, like, haze or whatever. Like, I don't know if they're actually into haze, but you know what I mean. Like, more fat liberation stuff. And I feel like everybody should, like, you know, not hate themselves or anything for their body. But I feel like also focusing on, like, fat liberation and all that's kind of weird. Like, this is my problem with it, is it's like people are so extreme and they go into all these extremes. And instead of just not caring, you're so caring that you've become involved in a liberation movement that is all about your body weight. It's just weird. That's the thing I kind of take issue with these videos. It's like, you do care. You kind of do care. Like, you have to care if you're involved in these movements. And I feel like not caring would involve no focus on your body. You wouldn't be making, like, fat acceptance TikToks. You would just be living your life, doing what you want. You just wouldn't care. So I kind of have to disagree. I think these people really do care.
So sometime in 2019, I realized it was okay to be fat because so many people were. And I had tried so hard, and it made me miserable. And I realized I had a choice between staying miserable in a body that was not going to change back to being thin. That thin ideal was gone after reading from so many scholars, my personal experience, everyone else's experiences. I realized I can live my life and be fat, or stall it and keep being miserable. I hope that answered everything.
One other thing I do need to mention is you should never, like, you know, put your life on pause just to lose some weight. You should always be confident enough or enjoy your life enough to not worry in the moment about having fun and enjoying yourself, even if you're overweight. And I've done that many times in my life. I've impaired my own, like, you know, happiness, well-being, going out with friends, just so that I could get a little bit more shredded, enjoy the perfect body, or, you know, just basically avoid, like, whatever the fuck I'm trying to avoid in the moment, right? And I feel like it's just bad. Like, it creates a level of loserdom within your very soul. And I really hope people don't do that more than anything else, whatever their beliefs are. Like, there's no point in, like, you being here if you can't enjoy your life. I don't know, man. What do you guys think? So yeah, that's the video. Tell me what you think in the comments below, my people, and I hope you all enjoyed. It has been lovely, and I will see you all next time. Slater!